Have you ever laid in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, unable to switch off your brain? The same thought goes round and round, and no matter how much you try, it just doesn't stop. You replay the past, worry about the future, and second guess everything you've said or done. It feels like your mind has become a prison that never gives you a break. That heavy feeling in your chest, that racing heart, that restless energy inside you, all of it is the weight of overthinking. And what's even worse is how invisible it is. To the outside world, you look normal, but inside it feels like you're drowning in your own thoughts. Overthinking is one of the most common psychological traps of our time. Yet very few people truly understand how destructive it can be. We often brush it off, saying, "Oh, I just think too much," as if it's a harmless habit. But the truth is, overthinking eats away at our peace, our confidence, and even our ability to live fully in the present. It's like a slow poison. It doesn't attack all at once, but it weakens you day by day, thought by thought. And before you know it, you're not just thinking about life, you're stuck in it, unable to move forward. The mind loves patterns. Once it gets hooked on replaying things, it doesn't let go easily. Imagine your brain as a computer. When too many tabs are open, the system slows down, overheats, and sometimes crashes. That's exactly what happens with overthinking. You're running endless tabs in your mind. What if this happens? Why did that happen? Should I have done that differently? What will they think of me? And just like a slow computer, you feel heavy, tired, drained, and stuck. But the real question is, why do we do this to ourselves? Why does the brain hold on to certain thoughts and refuse to let them go? The answer lies deep in psychology. Overthinking is not just a random habit. It's a coping mechanism. It's your mind's way of trying to feel safe in an uncertain world. When you replay the past, you're unconsciously hoping to find answers that will protect you from future mistakes. When you obsess about the future, you're trying to control an outcome that hasn't even happened yet. On the surface, it feels like you're just being cautious. But in reality, you're digging yourself deeper into a cycle of fear and paralysis. Think about it. Every time you replay a conversation, every time you wonder what people thought about you, every time you ask yourself, what if for the 100th time you're not solving anything? You're only feeding the cycle. The more you feed it, the stronger it becomes. Overthinking doesn't bring clarity. It creates confusion. It doesn't help you prepare. It drains your energy, and it doesn't prevent pain. In fact, it creates pain where none even existed. This is why psychologists often say that overthinking is one of the most exhausting things the human brain can do. It tricks you into believing you're working on a problem, but in reality, you're just spinning in circles. Imagine standing in quicksand. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. That's what overthinking does. It convinces you that thinking more will somehow set you free. But in truth, it pulls you down further. And here's where it gets even more dangerous. Overthinking doesn't just stay in your head. It seeps into your emotions, your relationships, your health. It can make you irritable, anxious, withdrawn. It can stop you from taking risks or enjoying opportunities. It can damage your sleep, your appetite, your overall energy. In many ways, overthinking isn't just a mental habit. It's a lifestyle, one that slowly shrinks the space where you can actually live. For many people, overthinking shows up in the smallest moments. You send a text and immediately start analyzing whether the tone was right. You give an opinion and replay how people reacted. You make a choice and wonder if it was the best one. These seem like little things, but when they pile up, they consume hours of your day. Hours that could have been spent in peace, in joy, in creation. Instead, they're lost to the endless storm of what-ifs and should-haves. But at the heart of overthinking lies something deeper: fear. Fear of being judged, fear of failing, fear of losing control, fear of not being good enough. This is why overthinking feels so personal, so heavy. It's not just about thoughts, it's about identity. Every overthought scenario is a way of your brain saying, if I'm not careful, if I'm not perfect, if I don't think through every detail, something bad will happen, and it will mean I'm not enough. That's why it hurts so much. It's not just about a decision or a moment. It's about who you believe you are. Overthinking turns mistakes into identities. Instead of saying, I made a mistake, your mind whispers, I am a mistake. Instead of saying, that didn't go well, it becomes, I never do anything right. This is why it's so hard to break free. Because overthinking isn't attacking your choices. It's attacking your sense of self. It convinces you that you are the problem, and so you keep analyzing yourself, hoping to find the version of you that will finally be good enough. But the truth is, there's nothing to fix. What you need isn't more thinking, it's learning to let go. Now, letting go doesn't mean ignoring your thoughts or pretending they don't exist. It doesn't mean becoming careless. It means seeing thoughts for what they are, just thoughts, not facts, not absolute truths, not definitions of who you are, just mental events passing through your brain. But when you're trapped in overthinking, it's hard to believe this. The thoughts feel so real, so urgent, so heavy. And this is where self-awareness becomes the first step toward freedom. You start by simply noticing the pattern every time. You catch yourself replaying something, pause, notice it, label it. Say to yourself, this is overthinking. That moment of awareness, as small as it seems, is a crack in the cycle. Because the instant you recognize overthinking for what it is, you're no longer fully trapped in it. You've created a small distance between you and your thoughts. Think of it like watching a storm through a window. When you're outside, the storm controls you, the wind pushes you, the rain soaks you, the noise surrounds you. But when you're inside, looking through the glass, the storm is still there, but it doesn't have the same power over you. That's what awareness does. It puts you behind the glass. The thoughts keep moving, but you're no longer lost in them. But awareness alone is not enough. You also need to practice self-compassion. And this is where many people struggle, because we live in a world that glorifies self-criticism. We think beating ourselves up will make us better. We think harshness is the path to growth. But the reality is, self-criticism fuels overthinking. Every time you tell yourself you're not enough, you give your mind more material to obsess over. Compassion, on the other hand, cuts the cycle. It allows you to make mistakes without turning them into identities. It lets you be human when you begin to treat yourself with kindness. When you start saying, it's okay to not have all the answers right now, you slowly loosen the grip of overthinking. You shift from trying to control everything to allowing yourself to just be. And ironically, this is when clarity begins to appear. Because clarity doesn't come from more thinking. It comes from space. Space to breathe. Space to rest. Space to simply exist without judgment. Overthinking thrives in silence and secrecy. It grows strongest when you keep everything locked inside. But when you start talking about it, when you share your struggles with someone you trust, or even when you write it down in a journal, you begin to weaken its hold. Thoughts that seemed so huge and overwhelming in your head often shrink once they're spoken or written. You realize they were never as big as they felt. At this point, you might be wondering, if awareness and compassion are so powerful, why don't we all just stop overthinking right away? The reason is simple. The brain is wired for survival, not peace. It evolved to scan for danger, to analyze risks, to predict outcomes. That's what kept our ancestors alive. But in today's world, where most dangers are not physical but psychological, this same survival system becomes overactive. It treats a small mistake at work like a life or death threat. It treats an awkward conversation like a disaster, and so it keeps you stuck in fight or flight mode, overanalyzing everything. This is why breaking free from overthinking isn't about erasing the habit completely. It's about retraining your brain. It's about teaching it that not every thought deserves attention. Not every scenario needs to be replayed. Not every outcome can be controlled. It's about reminding yourself, again and again, that you can handle life without running every possibility through your head 100 times. And while this process isn't easy, it's worth it. Because when you begin to quiet the noise of overthinking, you create space for something much more powerful, presence. You begin to actually live the moments you're in, instead of living in your head. You start to feel joy without analyzing it, to take action without doubting it, to connect with others without rehearsing every word. You discover that life is happening right here, right now, and you don't need to think it to death to deserve it. When you look closely, you'll realize that overthinking is not really about thinking too much. It's about not knowing how to stop. It's like your mind has forgotten the brakes and only knows how to accelerate. The thoughts keep rushing, and even when you're exhausted, they don't slow down. That's why the key isn't to shut your mind off completely. It's to teach it when to pause, when to let go, and when to focus on what truly matters. One of the most effective ways to do this is by grounding yourself in the present moment. Because here's the truth, overthinking almost never happens in the now. It happens in the past or the future. You're either replaying yesterday's mistakes or predicting tomorrow's problems. But the present moment, right here, is usually calm. It's not as scary as your mind makes it out to be. The more you anchor yourself in the present, the less power overthinking has. For example, notice your breathing. Pay attention to how air moves in and out of your body. Feel the weight of your feet on the ground. Listen carefully to the sounds around you. These may sound like small actions, but they're powerful because they pull you back into reality. They remind you that right now, you're safe. Right now, nothing is falling apart. Right now, you don't need to solve every problem. In your head, another strategy is setting boundaries with your thoughts. Think of it like scheduling a meeting with your mind. Instead of letting worries hijack your day, you can say, okay, I'll give myself 20 minutes later to think about this. When your mind starts to spiral outside of that time, remind yourself that it's not the moment for it. At first, it feels strange. But with practice, your brain begins to understand that it doesn't have to obsess all day long. But sometimes, it's not just about when you think, it's also about what you think. Overthinking often lives in a space of what if. What if this goes wrong? What if they don't like me? What if I fail? And most of the time, these what ifs never even happen. The brain loves to predict the worst, but reality is usually much kinder. To break free, you can challenge your what-ifs by asking what else could happen. Instead of only imagining failure, try imagining success. Instead of only picturing rejection, imagine acceptance. It doesn't mean ignoring risks, but it balances the mind. Here's something powerful to remember. Thoughts are not orders. Just because your brain produces a thought doesn't mean you have to obey it. Thoughts are like passing clouds. Some are dark and heavy, some are light and harmless, but none of them define the sky itself. You are the sky. The thoughts are just the weather, and weather always changes. It's also important to recognize that overthinking is tied to perfectionism. The need to get everything right, to avoid mistakes, to be flawless. But perfection is an illusion. It doesn't exist. Life was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be lived. And ironically, when you let go of perfection, you often perform better. You act more freely, more authentically, without the heavy weight of judgment. Psychologists call this flow state. It's when you're so present in what you're doing that time seems to disappear. Athletes feel it, artists feel it, even children playing feel it. And guess what? Flow state cannot exist with overthinking. It only exists when you let go, when you stop judging yourself, when you simply allow the moment to unfold. That's where real power lies. And maybe the hardest truth about overthinking is this: it's not solved by thinking more. It's solved by acting. You can sit with a decision for months, analyzing every angle, and still not feel ready. But the moment you take action, clarity comes. Action cuts through doubt like nothing else, because action gives you feedback. It tells you what works and what doesn't. It moves you forward. Overthinking keeps you stuck, but action opens the path. So if you're caught in a loop right now, maybe about a career choice, a relationship, or even just how others see you, remember this: you don't need the perfect answer. You just need to take one step. Small steps break big cycles, and once you start moving, the overthinking begins to lose its grip. But here's the beauty of all this. The same mind that overthinks is also the mind that can imagine, create, and dream. The same brain that traps you can also free you. It's not your enemy, it just needs guidance. When you train your brain to stop clinging to every thought, you unlock incredible energy. You gain focus. You gain peace. You gain yourself back. Because in the end, overthinking is not who you are. It's just a habit your brain picked up along the way. And habits can be unlearned. You don't have to be the prisoner of your thoughts. You can be the observer, the guide, the one who decides what thoughts deserve your attention and what thoughts don't. And maybe this is the most important lesson. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. When you truly see this, when you truly feel it, overthinking loses its power. It becomes just noise in the background, not the ruler of your life. So the next time you catch yourself spiraling, remember this: pause, breathe, notice, let it pass. You don't need to wrestle every thought. You don't need to solve everything right now. Life doesn't demand perfection from you. It just asks you to show up. And when you do, when you stop letting overthinking control you, you begin to live a life that feels lighter, freer, more real. You start to see the beauty of the present moment, the joy of small things, the strength you already have inside you. And that is something no thought can ever take away. Because mastering your mind doesn't mean controlling every thought. It means no longer letting thoughts control you. So, if this message spoke to you today, If you felt even a little bit lighter while listening, I want you to carry this with you. Your mind is powerful, but you are more powerful. You don't have to be trapped anymore. And if you're ready to keep going on this journey, if you want more videos like this to help you break free from the habits that hold you back, make sure to subscribe. Tap the notification bell so you don't miss the next one. And if this helped you, share it with someone who might be stuck in their own storm of overthinking, because sometimes all it takes is one message, one reminder to change the way we see ourselves forever.